Well, Mom, you've decided to intentionally pursue your daughter's heart and to have these conversations around her changing body, helping her to grow in confidence. And really, regardless of what you're talking to your daughter about, there's this foundational element that you're going to be practicing over and over and over and over the rest of your relationship with her, well into her adult years. It's one that most of us struggle with. I think all of us think we're great listeners. The problem is nobody comes out of the womb being a great listener. We have to practice, and we have to practice again and again. As a professional counselor who does this for a living, I still have to practice doing this with my own 2 girls and my husband. So it's a difficult skill. So I want to give you some baseline practices, and you can pick one to focus in on each month. Maybe you're really skilled in one of them and you can go to the next one. But the goal is to get all 3 elements together. Why do we need to be a good listener? Well, our daughters actually feel safe with us when we listen well. So let me say that again. They actually feel safe with us when we listen well. They might know that they're safe with you as mom, but when you listen to them and allow them to express what they need to express and track with what they're sharing, and you empathize with them, they not only experience safety in the room, but something changes in their body. Their neurobiology is actually shifting as you listen. I want to give you a little bit of a backdrop of neuroscience before I tell you the 3 ingredients. Dr. Siegel is a fantastic psychologist who did all kinds of studies on the brain, and he's helped us understand what's actually going on when a little child is overwhelmed with emotions. And this little child is actually reflecting us as adults as well. We all have a little child in us. What's happening is our brain is made of a downstairs brain and an upstairs brain. The downstairs brain is the back side right here, is where our amygdala is. This is where we map out the world around us from when we are born all the way till we're about age 24. Those early years of your daughter's life, she is smelling and hearing and seeing and tasting and feeling her world. And as she grows older, she's starting to make sense of it with the upstairs brain. The upstairs brain is our cognitive part of our brain. That's our frontal lobe. It's where we make reason about things and we say A plus B equals C. Well, when she's this age, your daughter is seeing the world through her downstairs brain. She's feeling the world. So when we communicate something to her, we have to look at our body language and make sure that she's seeing something that's matching our words. So when I say, I love you, my facial expressions and the tone of my body has to match that. Otherwise, if I say, I love you, she's not going to believe me because my face didn't match my words. So when you're listening to your daughter, you really need to keep your own lid on. And how we do that as moms is we take deep breaths and we remember that this conversation is not about me. It's not a personal reflection on who I am and if I'm a good mom. This is about her. I'm going to be the adult in the room, and I'm going to keep my logical brain on, and I'm going to try to follow what she's trying to tell me, and I'm not going to react emotionally. When we react emotionally, our brain flips, is what Dr. Siegel says, and our blood leaves our frontal lobe and moves to our amygdala, and we move into fight, flight, or freeze. That's where you and your daughter probably get in the biggest fights. When she's overwhelmed with emotion and you're overwhelmed with emotion, it's really hard to hear each other. So your job in these conversations is to keep your lid on by doing what you need to do to stay calm, cool, and collected, and to listen to what she's trying to tell you. Even if she's flailing, the research says that if we are listened to well, our brains will actually calm down. So when you give your daughter a calming presence, one that says, I see you, I hear you, and I care, her body will start to calm down and her blood will leave the amygdala and move back to the frontal lobe, and she will start to be calm again. So though this is the time during these conversations when you're hanging out with her in these special dates, you're practicing these skills, know that you could be doing this throughout the month as well. This is a lifelong skill. Have lots of grace for yourself. So really, there's 3 steps in good listening. First is mirroring, second is validating, and the last is empathy. When we mirror back to our daughters what we hear them saying, We're literally just tracking with her words. And I'm trying my best not to interpret what she's telling me through the grid of my own adult brain. I'm literally just repeating back to her what she's telling me about what she thinks and what she feels. If she's quiet, I'm also quiet. Or I might even say out loud, "You seem like you're thinking right now." That's just mirroring back what she is expressing. The second is validating, and it's not agreeing with our daughters. It's not like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense," because a lot of what they're saying is in their developmentally appropriate places, and it doesn't always make logical sense. But that's okay. What you're trying to do is put on the lens of what they see in their world and try to validate what they're experiencing and why they think what they think about their life. So you say things like, "Oh, I could see why you thought that," or "I can see how you got to that conclusion," or "Yeah, I can see why you got really frustrated with me the other day when I did that." Again, not agreeing, just simply reflecting back that I can make sense of what you're saying. The last is the golden ticket for every good communication conversation, and it's empathy. Empathy is what helps us feel not alone in the world. And so though you might logically understand where your daughter's coming from, you really want to meet her emotionally. So you're working on tuning into where she's feeling. So as she's telling you a story or talking about her and her friends, or she's expressing, "Mom, I'm feeling really uncomfortable about this conversation and I don't want to talk about this," she's giving you cues to emotions. And so empathy just says, "Yeah, you feel anxious. You're feeling uncomfortable right now." A lot of times I'm just using the words that my daughters give me, but sometimes it requires my years of life to read between the lines a little bit and to guess. I'm wondering if you're feeling sad. It seems like you might be feeling angry. So that's empathy. Again, have grace for yourself as you practice, but if you can get these 3 skills sharpened over the year as you work in these conversations with your daughter and listening to what she has to say, watch and see the trust grow between you and her. We trust people who listen to us well because we know they care, because we know that what I say and what I think and what I want matters. And you're teaching your daughter that her voice matters in a world that tries to shut it down, ignore it, or amplify. You're also modeling to her how to be a good listener. So as she experiences you being a good listener, it's the way that she'll go out in the world and share these same skills with her friends and her siblings someday. So don't put that pressure on her for next week. Communication 101 is just these simple skills that remind your daughter that she's not alone in the world. And I want to just say one more thing as we wrap up. It's really easy for us moms to take what our daughters say personal. And so this is something I want you to work on, is almost envisioning a glass wall and your daughter is sharing things, and maybe sometimes she'll share things about you that can hurt your feelings. I want you to pretend as if it's hitting that glass wall and it's not hitting you. Our identity is not in what our daughters think of us. It is in what God thinks of us. So be a safe woman for your daughter, because if you can hold her emotions and you can hold her many opinions about the world around her and not overwhelm her with your own emotions, her friend is mean to her and all of a sudden now you're angry, or she's really sad about getting a bad grade on her test and now you're crying. What that teaches your daughter is that you're not capable of holding her little world. And not only does that keep her from wanting to share with you, because a lot of girls want to protect their mom from the hard in their life, it can also teach her that God can't hold this either. So we want to teach her that we got it. And even if it's hard for you to hear, work to listen, to be there for her, and then you go process with another adult, a friend, a mentor, a spouse, and do your crying and get angry over here. Does that make sense? All right. You got this, Mom. Watch this video, come back to it as many times as you need this year, and it's a privilege to get to walk with you as you walk with your daughters.